Okay, here is episode 5 of Into the Badlands Review. Sonny puts the compass into the book, and now he has a heading on which way to go to Azra. So basically, they may be getting out of the Badlands, but I'm not sure if it's against his will or if it's on his own diminish. Okay, so this episode starts out that, the cogs are gone and the Colts are dead, and what is happening is Jade says, "Give me half of your Clipper force." So they don't know what to do. With all that's going on, their fear is that half the poppy will spoil. So basically, Jade will teach the Clippers on how to milk the poppy and all that. And as he's explaining all this, he's having headaches from the tumor or the growth, whatever is in his head. And every time MK is cut, his life force is drained and he becomes closer to death. Well, Ryder goes to see Waldo, and he's got MK's pendant, and he shows it to Waldo and says, "I took it off Sonny's Colt, and do you know anything about it? 'Cause my mom sure does." And he goes, "Well, your grandfather sure does, so you might as well go and see him." And he's like, "Well, she hasn't talked to him in years." And he's like, "Well, you should go and see him. Establish a connection." So basically, he goes and establishes a connection. So basically, what happens there is some people have to believe in a deeper connection, that there's something out there. Even if it's recording on your telephones or something out there. Well, as the widow is cutting to see if she has the right cogs, and none of them seem to be right, she tells Tilda to take her sisters to check the traps. Well, next thing you know, the Sonny takes another below him and two Colts. And MK says, "Sonny, look." And it just happens to be like a bear trap. And he flips MK, and he just does this awesome flip and kicks this tree, and all these apples happen to fall. They may be crab apples, I'm not sure, but they're big enough apples to set off all these bear traps. But as soon as that happens, uh, one of the regents or something happens to step in one of these bear traps. Man, that was pretty gross. I mean, you could see the bone right through the leg, and Sonny had to pop it right back in, and it was pretty gross. And AMC, man, when you come out with something, you actually do it upright. I gotta give you props. Okay, well, back to the show. Alright, after the harvest, Jade is helping Lydia because Lydia pitched in with the harvest and her hands are all blistered, but she doesn't know that the poison is on her hands. Oops, spoiler alert. But what has happened is her hands are all blistered up, so Jade goes to put some ointment on her hands, and she should have been using gloves. Which, I don't see why this would have been a big thing, but she should have just been doing it. I know it should have made more sense, but and after Ryder goes to leave his grandfather, uh, his grandfather goes and says that one of his people sent some word that we have a boy in the fort about he has some kind of dark force and needs to be cleansed. So, which is setting up for the next episode, which is the final episode. They only made 6 episodes on the first season. I'm sure the next season is going to be longer, but I'm not sure. So don't quote me on that, YouTubers. And, you know, Tilda's out there trying to warn MK, and somehow she gets caught by Sonny because he sees that he's not out there in his sleeping bag, and he's like, Sonny, stop. She's the only reason I can control my power at the parlay and all this and that. And so he has to come up with something. Are you good? Tell me where the widow is. And all of a sudden, here comes this other cult. And all of a sudden, here comes the crocodile tears. And he leans forward enough to where anything can happen, and next thing you know, she bites him and spits out a piece of his skin and spits it out, and Sonny's like, back to the fort, I guess. Well, she gets strapped to a chair and nothing bad happens to her, but she gets beat up a little bit. But in order to save her life, her mom shows up, and the widow and Sonny go at it. And he's got some kind of poison at the end of his sword, and she gets it along her belly, and MK ends up cutting himself, and he gets locked in the cell, but he has to cut himself to save Tilda, and he uses his power to blow the cell door off, which ends up killing the other cult. But as Sonny's on the chase for the widow and Tilda, who else sees this but Quinn? He actually sees MK passed out on the floor. Okay, YouTubers, I will keep you updated on the next and final episode. Peace out, and if you don't hear from me tonight, you'll hear from me tomorrow. Alright, leave me some suggestions, comments. Alright, later.